All right, we're diving into a huge power shift today, one that honestly affects every single one of us. We're talking about the quiet transfer of authority from governments to big tech companies. We're going to break down the key ideas from Marietje Schaake's book, The Tech Coup, to figure out, how this all happened, why it's such a big deal for our daily lives, and what we can actually do about it. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll go back to the beginning, to the root of the problem, how this, digital power vacuum even opened up. Then we'll look at how things escalated, right? How companies started, privatizing our digital world and acting like their own countries. And finally, we'll get to the solutions, the plan to rebuild democratic power and maybe even create a new social contract for this digital age. So, the big question is, how on earth did we get here? Well, it all goes back to the 90s and the early 2000s. There was just this huge wave of techno-optimism, right? Governments looked at the internet and saw this amazing force for good, something that would just spread democracy all by itself. So they made a very deliberate choice, a hands-off approach. They were totally convinced that any real government oversight would just be a mistake. And this right here, this was the core belief. It was the mantra you heard everywhere. Regulation would stifle innovation. Policymakers were just so sure that leaving the internet alone was the best way to let the future happen. But, this whole philosophy, as good as it might have sounded at the time, ended up having these massive, unforeseen consequences. Okay, so here's what's really fascinating. As governments took this intentional step back, this huge void of authority just opened up. And who stepped in? Tech companies. They rushed right in to fill it. They're the ones who built the digital roads and bridges we all use every day. And in doing that, they also started writing the traffic laws. In this quote, it just nails the heart of the problem. Think about it. Without any big public debate, without a single vote being cast, our democratic institutions just handed over this immense authority to private corporations. They were so focused on the promise of innovation that they completely missed what this quiet power shift would mean for us, down the line.
So, when we hear the term tech coup, it's super important to get what Schenk means. She's not talking about some sudden, hostile takeover. This wasn't a plot cooked up in a secret boardroom or anything. Nope, it was a slow, gradual, systemic transfer of power from the public sector to the private one. And this shift, it didn't just happen in some abstract way. It had very, very real consequences in the physical world. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so this gradual coup has had these very real, very tangible effects on our society. The basic infrastructure of our digital lives and the public spaces where we all debate and form opinions, they're not public services anymore. They're privately owned, privately controlled assets.
Just think about the actual physical parts of the internet. Those undersea cables that connect continents, they used to be public projects, but now they're mostly owned by companies like Google and Meta. And what about the cloud servers from Amazon and Microsoft? They're holding sensitive government and military data. In a crisis, private satellite networks become the only line of communication. So you see, when private companies own the infrastructure, they control the choke points of modern power. It's that simple.
And it's not just the hardware, right? The very software of our society, our public square, has also been privatized. Social media platforms are now, for better or for worse, the main place for public discussion. But here's the catch. Their business model isn't designed to create healthy debate. It's designed for engagement. And what does that mean? It means their algorithms often push outrage to the top, let disinformation spread like wildfire, and create an environment where online harassment just thrives.
This quote just perfectly sums up the dark side of that whole transformation. The digital public sphere, what we all hoped would be this amazing global town square, has been commercialized, manipulated, and weaponized. It's become a marketplace, first and foremost, and one that's super easy for bad actors to manipulate and weaponize to create division.
So, with control over both the physical and social layers of our digital world, these companies have become something totally new. They're now global political players. They operate with the kind of influence that used to be only for nation-states.
Just think about the power they have now. These companies are negotiating directly with heads of state. They're setting their own rules for political ads, a core function of democracy. And their decisions on what to allow or block can literally change the outcome of a war. We're seeing corporate diplomacy actively competing with state diplomacy. It's a whole new world.
Okay, so the key concept here is what Schaake calls quasi-sovereign functions. Let me break that down. Think of it like this. These companies are basically a new form of government. A government that makes rules affecting billions of lives. But it's a government you never voted for. And it's not really accountable to you. Its main accountability? to its shareholders, not to us, the citizens. And this power shift isn't just a headache for democracies. Authoritarian regimes are jumping all over these same technologies to tighten their grip. They're using AI for mass surveillance, spyware to hunt down dissidents. They're building this powerful, exportable model of digital authoritarianism that directly challenges democratic values on the world stage.
Now, for years, the standard line from Silicon Valley has been, hey, trust us. We can regulate ourselves. But, well, the evidence tells a very different story. This whole idea is basically a myth. The era of relying on voluntary promises and internal ethics boards, it's been a complete and total failure.
I mean, just look at the track record. In area after area, from protecting our elections and our privacy to making sure algorithms are fair and kids are safe online, self-regulation has failed. It just hasn't prevented widespread harm. Think about it. No other industry with this much impact on society, whether it's aviation or finance, is just allowed to police itself. So the question is, why should tech get a free pass?
And Schaake argues that self-regulation isn't even a real attempt to solve problems. Instead, she calls it a strategic delay tactic. It's basically a PR move, a way for companies to look responsible while they fight like crazy behind the scenes to avoid any real binding laws.
Okay, so that's the problem. And yeah, it's a pretty daunting picture. But the book doesn't just, point out what's wrong. It actually offers a way forward. So let's look at the roadmap for how democracies can start to regain control and bring back some balance.
The plan basically has 5 key steps. First up, governments have to reinvest in their own tech expertise. I mean, you can't regulate what you don't understand, right? Second, our existing legal systems, courts, regulators, they need to be updated and strengthened for this digital age. Third, transparency can't be a nice-to-have. It has to be a legal requirement. Fourth, democracies need to reassert control over critical digital infrastructure and decisions. And finally, we have to invest in building technology that serves the public interest, not just corporate profits.
But ultimately, this isn't just about passing a couple of new laws. Schaake's final message is a call for something much, much bigger. A brand new social contract for the digital age, one that's built by a global democratic movement.
So what does this new path look like? Well, it means creating international agreements on digital rights, just like we have for human rights. It means democracies have to work together on regulation, so companies can't just play them against each other. It means setting strong, universal ethical standards for AI. And maybe most importantly, it means a fundamental shift toward technology that's guided by democratic values, not just by the bottom line.
And this right here, this is the bottom line. It's the simple, powerful argument at the very heart of the book. For way too long, we've been forced to bend our democratic societies to fit the demands of technology. The time has come to demand that technology bends to serve the needs of democracy.
Which, of course, brings us to the final, really urgent question. After all this, the power vacuums, the privatization of everything, the rise of these massive tech giants, is it too late? I mean, can our democracies actually survive this?
The answer is a conditional yes. It is possible, but it is absolutely not a guarantee. It's going to require all of us, as citizens and our elected governments, to finally recognize the scale of this challenge and to act together, boldly and with a real sense of urgency, to reclaim our digital future.